So I'm really excited today that we have the dynamic duo behind LAMA with us. I think it's fair to say that we're seeing disruption happening in retail in general, but these guys are, I think, disrupting retail as well as we know it. We're seeing it in different locations. We're seeing it online. We're seeing a good, very good feedback from customers, being customers also. So I think it's wanted to get behind sort of their journey from where they started. I think 2020. The LAMA journey started 2020, right? Before that, you guys have been maybe involved in retail before, and it's been, I think a short time, but very interesting thing. So we wanted to dive a bit deep in that in our discussion today. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
First
Thank
of
you.
all,
It's a great honor
You
to
know,
be
it-
here amongst such great people from our industry and to be able to be on stage. It's nothing less than a dream come true for me to be able to speak to my fellow retailers, my mentors, people who've guided me, held my hand, including yourself. Almost everybody in the audience. I know a lot of faces here who've through those tough baby steps have helped me and my co-founders get to a place where we can start talking about the passion of fashion retail and how bullish we are about the Pakistani market.
Great. So yes, diving straight into the passion for fashion and retail. So how did you guys sort of get into this space? I mean, what's your background and what was the thought behind it, behind what you've been doing or what you started actually? We'll get into what you're doing now, but behind starting it and what your sort of experience and background was before that, and what were you thinking at the time, or planning, or envisioning?
थोड़ी एंशंट हिस्ट्री से हम शुरू करेंगे ये स्टोरी क्योंकि ये इंटरेस्टिंग तभी है अगर आप बिल्कुल 30 years back चले जाएं and I'm going to let Mujtaba take this one because I think he's much more relevant. His story is more relevant. His past is more relevant to retail. Maybe I will be more in charge of the future. I don't know. But
I was hoping you'll tell my story. So she's our storyteller in many ways.
ये कपड़े बेचता है और मैं कहानियाँ.
I was born in 1987, and my mom at that point was a mom, and she had a hidden entrepreneur inside her. She lost her husband. I was less than 3 years old, and she decided to take the harder route and raise her children on her own feet. तो उन्होंने रियलाइज़ किया कि तीसरे साल में पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी की डिग्री में उनको प्यार हो गया था और वो डिग्री छोड़ के आ गई थी और नाउ व्हेन शी लुक्ड बैक शी डिडंट नो हाउ टू जॉइन हर फादर्स एट दैट पॉइंट फार्मा बिजनेस तो उनके भाइयों ने और बहनों ने उनको मोटिवेट किया कि अपनी डिग्री कंप्लीट करो और फैमिली बिजनेस ज्वाइन करो आई सी माई मामू वॉकिंग इन और उसी दौरान उन्होंने उनका एक पैशन था उनको कपड़े सीने का बहुत शौक था और उनको बहुत ज़्यादा she used to stitch my sister's frocks and my clothes at the point and she said okay this is a great thing I should follow my passion so उन्होंने 3 लाख रुपया शायद मामू से नानी से पैसे लिए लोन लिया and she went abroad and did a sewing and a pattern making course वो करके जब वापस आई तो उन्होंने एक bespoke tailoring का business शुरू कर दिया और long story short that drove me and my family into this line of work and now today we have similar issues पहले ज़मानों में उनकी गाड़ी में हम बैठे होते थे बाहर और वो अंदर जैकेट्स ओवरलॉक हो रही होती थी और अब वही इश्यूज स्केल कर लें तो हमारे एज फाउंडर्स वो इश्यूज हैं कि जहाँ पे आप फैक्ट्री से और सीएमटी से और मैन्युफैक्चरर से डील कर रहे होते हैं और वेरियस चैलेंजेस होते हैं तो दैट्स हाउ आई वॉक्ड इनटू रिटेल आई वाज ऑफर्ड एन अमेजिंग पार्टनरशिप अगेन बाय माय अंकल सिटिंग इन द ऑडियंस back in 2012 where he wanted to start a business he was savvy he was tech and he needed someone to sort of run with him and I didn't think twice and I started that business in 2013 with him. We grew exponentially up and down. The journey was very, very difficult but rewarding at the same time. We were competitive and ethical in our pricing. That's how we gained traction. And we grew because we were agile in getting the right product to our customers within a short span of time. Sorry, I forgot to name that brand. It's called Almas. It is still a very much, it's a prominent brand in our retail industry, and it's growing exponentially. So that sort of business grew very much into the footwear industry, and I was more passionate about apparel. So we decided as a family to separate the two brands and to start apparel under a different umbrella, where I was able to rope in my wife and co-founder. I just had to somehow.
First, he had to rope me in to marry him, and then he had to rope me into the business. So I was roped in twice, unfortunately.
I don't want to take too long to give the background of how this has happened, but I've successfully achieved it. And luckily, I have a creative director who has to, really think
That's the
hard
important
before quitting.
Yeah, that's the important part.
So-
You've achieved it.
Yeah,
I can't
and
quit,
we have
unfortunately.
historically in our retail business and our landscape, we have historically couples doing retail
interestingly,
together,
yes.
which I think a lot of that message should be taken home, that partnerships and collaborations really drive you to the finish line.
Yeah.
So long story short, 2020 में हमने separate किया. I took some funds out of my older business. And we started bootstrapped, ensure किया कि हर तरीके से जितने दोस्तों के बटुओं में पैसे हों, मामू के, नानी के, अम्मा के, मेरी सास का प्लॉट बिकवा दिया. जो दुनिया का काम मैं कर सकता था, मैंने 2, 4, 5 लाख रुपया वाला दोस्त भी नहीं छोड़ा. और मैंने bootstrap करते करते 2020 से लेके 2021 और 22 तक गुजारा चलाया. And when I realized after opening our second store that इस तरह कारोबार आगे नहीं चलेगा. Which leads me to my second and I think most important part of this conversation is access to capital, which is so scarce in a country like Pakistan. Sorry.
No, I'm seeing how far he goes. And then maybe...
I'll go very far away.
Yeah,
Okay,
So,
hold on,
so
let's back up.
access
Okay,
to capital पे रोकते हैं और
ठीक है,
आपके पास
ठीक है,
वापस
ठीक है,
आते हैं.
okay. Good. Thank you, Amal, for the guidance. So let's stop there for a second. Let me get a word in. तो ये जो आपने पहले थोड़ा पीछे जाना चाहूँगा कि ठीक है, ये आपने स्टार्टअप किया, आपने बूटस्ट्रैप भी किया. But LAMA आपने कहा कि you did it because you wanted to get into clothing, right, primarily, and not go in the footwear direction as much, right? But we still see, a distinct sort of aesthetic, right? And a certain, maybe also is targeting, maybe, I'm not sure, but from a generation perspective, I'll have to ask you that question. So what is sort of the vision behind, from a retail perspective, from a commercial perspective, what you guys started with LAMA, and how has that progressed also? Then we'll come to the funding part.
So I believe the topic of this chat is demystifying Gen Z or something.
Partially, yeah.
Right? When we started LAMA, we weren't pitching to Gen Z. Gen Z के बारे में बहुत कम पता था. अभी भी I feel like we don't really understand what we're talking about. Gen Z is actually older than we think they are. Many of them have kids of their own. Maybe many of you are Gen Z. The older Gen Zs are now touching 30 years old, which is round about the time when we started the brand. We identify as millennials, having grown up with millennial fashion. But we never wanted to restrict the marketing or the storytelling to one age group. The idea was to have a brand that appealed to everybody because it's selling basics that anyone can wear, whether you're 70 or 13. You still might want a pair of black trousers in your closet. And black trousers is kind of the most cliche example. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं. Comfortable pair of loafers, a blazer, t-shirts की एक इंतहा की collection. There are universal clothes जो सब पहनना चाहते हैं. So that was the thinking behind the brand. A brand that is authentic enough to appeal to all ages. And that's what happened, interestingly.
Right, and would you say the aesthetic, I understand now from a customer perspective, but aesthetically, was it something that you guys liked, or you wanted to make clothes like that, or was it something else that drove you to follow certain design aesthetic?
What do you mean when you say aesthetic? What aesthetic are we?
I think
maybe they can answer. I don't know.
Okay, let's ask somebody here. My probably description would be minimalist, a bit minimalist,
Okay.
As opposed to being ornate or to being very
Okay.
flashy.
Yeah.
Or to
So
be very,
Aswan, I think
that's how I would describe it. But I want to hear from you sort of what.
so we're mostly driven by ethnic fashion, right?
Yeah.
Our apparel industry is vastly driven by ethnic fashion, and maybe the size of the Western wear market was too small for bigger companies to start taking it seriously. And we as founders, when you're starting off, you have nothing to lose because you're starting off. It's a white canvas and whatever you paint on it. So we kept everything very minimal. Our assortment plan, from our merchandise to our communication to our branding, everything was very minimal. And I think COVID taught us that you do not have many stores that you can just walk into to buy your functional basics for like your everyday wardrobe. And we started exploring those, and over time realized that our industry did not have the infrastructure to sort of make everything within Pakistan, which is why we are integrating with countries like China and other places. So yes, it was very minimal, but that was also because we wanted to keep our brand positioning and marketing very clean.
Got it. So it was a lot of minimal and basic sort of things that you wanted to
Minimal,
do more as
basic
well.
clothing, but I hate being boxed into
No,
this
I'm not
basic
trying to box
box.
you in. Tell me everything that you also. It's outside the box also that you guys are. No problem. Like okay, basics, minimal, but also you're sort of a certain type of. I mean, not. I would say
It was
the designs are
different.
not very busy.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
That's maybe one area we can put. We can. place that
हमारा
in.
एक core value है simplicity in our business.
Right.
उसके अंदर simplicity एक शादी वाला जोड़ा भी simple हो सकता है और एक t-shirt भी simple हो सकता है मतलब simplicity also is relative to the occasion.
Yeah.
So that was the idea कि आप हीलें भी बेचें, आप flats भी बेचें, आप t-shirts भी बेचें और आप embroideries भी बेचें, but keep it simple to the eye. And I guess that's what we set out to do. And I try to do that in my storytelling, in my marketing as well. I try to do it in my hiring. We are constantly trying to simplify processes, and Usman knows the struggle the most, maybe. How do we simplify the process so much that the customer gets it, that when they walk into the store, they understand what we're trying to do? बहुत ज़्यादा echo नहीं आ रही कि सिर्फ मुझे आ रही है?
I think हमें आ रही है echo. I think they're okay.
You guys are fine.
You're
You can
okay?
hear me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So moving on to sort of what you were talking about is sort of then the growth phase and where you were looking for capital. I think did you guys decide you wanted capital or just came walking to your door?
The kind of capital I aspire to raise still, I don't think that exists in sort of the local landscape because access to foreign currency is like a scarce. There's a lot of scarcity around that, and the venture play doesn't really fit the conventional businesses. So we did end up talking to a couple of VCs, and they're like, "What? 20 years ROIs? What are you talking about out of the door?" So then I realized that we often forget to leverage our own socio-economic circles. So I started looking around and I said, okay, I came to you back in 2020. I've been to everyone, most people here, in how to fix this problem. Because I believed, and I think your gut and your grit has to be in combination. That play has to be in combination. When a founder passionately sells his idea or his problem to a potential partner or investor. So I did. There were a lot of doors remained locked till date. But then, if you endlessly keep knocking on those doors, opportunities do open up. And over the past 2 years, we've been able to onboard not just financial partners, but strategic partners, one of whom are big in denim and they manufacture for the entire globe. And one of the family businesses are in the distribution business who know how the network, how the operations run in this country. So I think it's just a matter of internally, firstly, knowing what you need, what kind of capital you require, and how to leverage certain relationships, and what kind of capital will carry you to the finish line. So the staging is also very important, where Usman really helped out in sort of imagining that 5, 10, 15-year roadmap and the kind of capital that was required.
So just keeping on that point, what would you say was very important? I mean, if for brands were looking for capital or feel like they are strapped for cash and they have to look at other options, which you obviously were decided and realized that to grow and to do what we want to achieve, we need capital. So what would you say is essential from your experience? The prerequisites and also what important in the approach that you need to take to actually do that?
So I think as a founder and as a startup, another discipline I learned at Almas was to keep your books very clean and to ensure that everything, before you go to bed every night, you close your books. So I think that sort of any family office or PE firm who steps into your business will come and straight hop onto the due diligence part of your business. And then they'll go through, you'll have to walk them through your books. Your books have to be very clean. If you're profitable or not, they need to know. So I think that is the fundamental. And the second most important thing is your business model has to be profitable and sustainable if you want to restrict yourselves to the capital which is accessible within Pakistan. Because no one's here in a sort of economic climate which is a little bit uncertain. Here people are not so willing to invest in businesses that will be profitable in a decade's time.
असफंदर ये जब ये स्टोरी सुनाई जाती है तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा ग्लैमरस लगती है ना, मगर असल में ये बिल्कुल ग्लैमरस नहीं होती. एंड आई थिंक पीपल हु हैव एक्चुअली डन द स्टार्टअप जर्नी विल नो. मुश्तबा एंड आई, वी यूज्ड टू load our samples or our patterns into our suitcases, and we used to really just drive around the city trying to find different factories that would actually humor us. And no, most people would not. They would be like, "क्या 50-60 पीस बनवाने हैं आपने, आप अपने घर जाएं." तो एक जलालत का एक process होता है startup में, until you finally keep knocking and you keep knocking, you keep knocking, and then somebody, pays attention, because what you're doing is you're working hard and you're hustling every single day. जिन लोगों ने हमारे में invest किया है आज, अभी last year, उनकी, they have huge manufacturing units. And I remember off of Firozpur Road उनकी एक factory है जिसके कोई 6-7 गेट हैं, वो इतनी बड़ी है. And we're driving past it after being rejected by some factory. और मुश्तबा ने मुझे कहा, यार ये जो फैक्ट्री है ना, इसमें मेरा एक दोस्त है, पार्टनर है इस बिज़नेस में, तो मे बी वन डे हमारी कोई डेनिम का उनका बिज़नेस है, हमारी कोई जीन्स वगैरह का ऑर्डर ले लेंगे हमसे. So imagine those people are the ones who, bought into our business. But it's months and months and years of hustling, really, that leads you to the cap tables you want to be on.
100%. I think that's, whether it's capital, whether it's just starting a business, the startup side of things is very tough. 100%. I think that's a story of many, many retailers. And that's, the beauty of it. I think that's what keeps us going also. That perhaps the thrill as well, but also just, the hustle. So I wanted to come also one point. I think you mentioned, of course, the books, all that. Also, I think the plan, right? What are you sort of, investor would want to know, or you already believe in a plan and you want them to buy into that plan, right? Whatever you have envisioned, for the next X number of years, right? So what was your plan and how is that plan coming along for both of you guys in LAMA? Since, you shared that plan or you embarked on that journey, next phase of that journey, and how has that been?
So I think your plan evolves over time, and stepping into business or starting as co-founding a second organization, at that point we were all about exporting and dollarizing our revenues. What we didn't realize, maybe we didn't realize the total addressable market that existed within Pakistan. We thought Western wear hai, kahan hi bikega, kitne stores khol lenge, how will we scale it here? तो हमने foreign export की तरफ देखना शुरू कर दिया. But जैसे जैसे हमने expand किया through, vertically or horizontally अपनी assortments में, manufacturing में, जहाँ जहाँ हमने कदम रखा वहाँ पे हमें response मिली. और हमने over time realize किया है, and this is vetted information and data, कि पाकिस्तान की जो opportunity है वो शायद इतनी vast है for a startup as small as us, because we have just entered the market, कि शायद आपको export करने से पहले 5-7 साल यहाँ पे ही expansion में चाहिए for a very lean team and a lean sort of organization. But yes, without having, having your inventories and your products, quality products being sold abroad, you can't really sustain in the long term because of, again, social problems and economic problems in the country. So the vision was always to go global, but baby steps is what we've learned over time, and one step at a time. जो शुरू में जल्दी पड़ी हुई थी ना कि अभी यहाँ भी खोलना है, वहाँ भी खोलना है. Faisal is in the audience from Dolmen Group. तो Faisal के भी दरवाजे पे कितनी दफ़ा खटखटाया और finally Faisal ने दरवाज़ा खोल दिया और अब ऐसा खोला है कि माशाल्लाह थर्ड हमारा स्टोर खुल रहा है Faisal के साथ. So इतनी अपॉर्चुनिटी है इस मुल्क में कि आप ज़रूर एक्सपोर्ट पे फोकस करें, आप ज़रूर डाइवर्सिफिकेशन पे फोकस करें, लेकिन पहले अपनी कोर को you have to highlight कि आपकी कोर क्या और उसको properly you give it your best. So I think that's also fundamentally very important कि आप founder distract ना हो अगले step के लिए, वो पहली चीज़ को properly करें.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Good advice, definitely. Last question from my side, and I don't know if we have time for a couple of questions in the audience, if anybody has any. अगर है कोई तो तैयार हो जाए, mic ले लें, अगर कोई सवाल आप लोगों का है. So I think one thing I think I am very passionate about, and I think we might get there in the near future. We are seeing a lot of online, digital first brands coming up. Young people becoming entrepreneurs, going in the fashion space, doing a lot of good things. So especially when we come to online, to काफी, I think purely online brands so काफी बन गए हैं, a lot of them. But a lot of them now are looking at the retail space, right? And in fashion particularly, Western fashion, casual, whatever you want to call it. So what advice would you give, because we're also recording this, we're also going to be, sharing this with a lot of people, to people who want to go into retail for the first time, especially younger people, especially who want to go in the similar space to yours in fashion?
I don't know, it's, a lot of the business, I mean, Usman might disagree with me on this, but I still run a lot of our, my work on intuition. बहुत ज़्यादा intuition है. Intuition का उर्दू लफ्ज़ क्या होता है? What's the Urdu word for it? Do you know? Intuition.
बताएं, सुल्तान भाई. जुगाड़?
जुगाड़.
नहीं, जुगाड़ नहीं होगा. Intuition.
Intuition. मुझे पता है. नहीं यार, it's not that arrogant. मुझे पता है. It's a lot of what we do because we're in fashion.
यकीन ही हुआ. Well, anyway.
हाँ. तो इंट्यूशन को प्लीज़ साइडलाइन ना करें. डेटा प्लेज अ मैसिव पार्ट टू गाइड योर इंट्यूशन, बट जो एक ह्यूमन एलिमेंट है इंट्यूशन का फैशन में, it's important. It's so important that it's the only thing that's humanizing a commercial enterprise like a retailer for younger people who want to feel like they're part of a community in everything. We don't realize that Gen Z is also the generation जो सबसे ज़्यादा stories के साथ बड़ी हुई है. They have Netflix in their bedroom since they were kids. They're the ones who grew up in the digital generation. Millennials didn't. So they enjoy storytelling. They enjoy beauty. Yes. अंदाज़ा?
Intuition का अंदाज़ा.
Would it be
अंदाज़े से चलते हैं ना?
अंदाज़े से चलते हैं.
I guess.
I think that ये बहुत ये गलत
Close
लफ्ज़
enough.
है.
Close enough for now. Ilham. I love how this is becoming
somewhere
interactive.
in the middle of the
I love
two.
how this is becoming interactive on कि ये अंग्रेजी का लफ्ज़ का उर्दू में
somewhere
क्या
in the
मायने है?
middle of
कुछ सवाल भी
अंदाज़ा
बता दें.
and ilham.
सवाल ही बता दे कुछ.
False intuition. I
Thank you.
feel. It's somewhere in the middle of the two. It's very fluid, it's quick, you understand because you have your pulse on what your customer wants. So I think sorry Mujtaba, I'll let you take this in a second, but just the only thing that I would recommend to young people would be know why you are doing this.
Know why you're doing
Yeah,
this.
ask yourself and put it on paper.
ठीक है. Mujtaba, anything to add?
मैंने पिछले 10 साल में रियलाइज़ किया है कि रात को सोना बहुत ज़रूरी है यंग लोगों के लिए ना, कुछ भी सुबह उठ के करने के लिए. तो मेरा पैगाम ये, I would always go to sleep late, wake up late. By the time I would wake up, my mamu would be done with his day. 9:30 बजे WeChat पे कि दुनिया में चाइना ख़त्म, काम ख़त्म करके वो he would be moving on to breakfast and I would just be waking up. So my point here is just look after yourselves, get your 7 hours of sleep. Try to sleep on time. These are the fundamentals of getting anywhere in business. और वो सारा पैशन वैशन जो है ना असफंद भाई, वो बाद में आता है. पहले अपने आप को सीधा करना और अपनी फिजिकल और मेंटल हेल्थ पे फोकस करना है. बिकॉज जो यंगर जनरेशंस है ना, वो आप जब बर्न के मोड में होते हो ना, और जब आप भाग रहे होते हो तो आप भाग रहे होते हो और आपको you're trying to go for that 100-meter or that 200-meter race, you don't realize कि marathon भागने के लिए आपको you need to fuel your body and you need to pace yourself. So my message is just in order to sustain yourselves in the long term, just look after yourselves, get good like a good night's rest. It means everything to me now.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think that's a good message to end on. Take care of yourself. काम काम है, धंधा धंधा है, अपना पहला ख्याल रख लें ज़रा थोड़ा सा, ठीक है? I agree. Thank you very much. I think we don't have time for questions, but I think we've gotten a lot of out. Thank you guys.